Good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to introduce you to the new module of our product for traffic management, PTV flows. The new model, I would say the much awaited new model, it's the historical data analysis. So before we go on, just want to remind you that you can also ask on the chat later questions. We will just start with a simple list of benefits of this module and which are the main use cases, and then we go for the demo. So first of all, we built this module because there are several use cases where we think that this module will be beneficial. So in this moment, historical data analysis can store traffic speed data and KPI data, so aggregated speed data to be accurate, for further offline analysis. It can be very useful in different use cases, I was saying. For example, of course, historical data analysis means storing the data so the traffic manager can later study historical trends and patterns, and these can help in understanding long-term traffic behavior and identifying recurring congestion points. Then, of course, another important point is to do performance evaluation. So traffic management authorities can evaluate the effectiveness of implemented traffic management strategies by comparing historical data before and after the implementation of new measures. Then incident analysis. So in the bad case of traffic incidents, stored data can provide insights into the conditions leading up to the incident. And these, of course, can help in improving response strategies and preventing future occurrences. Also, policymakers can use historical traffic data to make informed decisions about infrastructure development, traffic regulation, and urban planning. Last but not least, also it's useful for research in case we want to optimize a new algorithm that maybe can optimize the traffic lights and so on. So historical data are, of course, the basis. For this reason, we provide two main ways to access the data. So we give the ability to retrieve a KPI on a corridor, or actually also on a single link, over a selected time period with all its details. This will allow the user to analyze the performance and to understand the patterns. We'll see it in detail. This is currently available fully on the API and on a dedicated GUI that we are going to see called the HDA dashboard, so historical data analysis dashboard, which is available from the product main page. It is also possible to retrieve a specific day and hour for the entire network, a sort of snapshot in time, and this is for now available through API, but later will have its own dedicated GUI, and basically this will facilitate for the traffic manager to understand what happened in the past and to have a sort of replay of a bad situation and to see how around maybe the congestion that was formed by the incident, how the things propagated, or what was the real cause in terms of previous congestion that, let's say, were the real cause of the incident. So, having said that, I would go directly to look at the demo. So this is just the screenshot of the first GUI that we already have, that is on top, the HDA dashboard, and below the HDA dashboard we see the replay dashboard that later will be implemented and presented specifically in another webinar. I just want to remind you, first of all, that since this is a product that has been conceived to be integrated, we also have a specific documentation website that is linked here, where you can really understand how the single API calls can be used. You will find use case, explanation. So please have a look at it when you want to integrate this product or you want to understand how to integrate it. Then I would go directly to the demo. So let's go to see what we can do in the reality with this HDA dashboard. For this reason, now I will show my browser. Here it is, with an instance of PTV flows that is already working. It is an instance in Rome, the south part of Rome. PTV flows is able, as you remind, to show the current situation, the forecasted situation up to 60 minutes, but also with the KPI we have a visualization of what is happening along the corridor of the corridors that we are looking at, and it is possible to get all the information if it is an alert is active and other information like the free flow of the corridor or the we can set up alerts, all things that have been presented in the past. But we go in this case to the HDA dashboard here. So the historical KPI representation, and you have two ways to select your KPIs. You can select it from the map, the meter is selected here, or you can directly select from this list. In this case, I will select this KPI. I started this instance at the beginning of January, so here we have the ability to select weeks or even months. In this case, I will select it from the 1st of January up to the current day. I load the data and it is quite fast. Let me show you how fast it is, very interesting. Then what we are looking is an aggregation every 5 minutes of the data, but it's possible to aggregate it in different slots of aggregation from 5 minutes to 1 day, if we want to see the trends only on days and not on the single 5-minute slots. It is possible to download the data that we are looking at here now to look at the data in a CSV file to be analyzed in Excel. Even it is possible to download for this KPI the single link value. So this is a KPI, but there are many road segments here, and you can download then the single links for the last selected day, because these are many data, so we allow to select the last 24 hours from the end date, and of course you can change the end date if you want to change the download of the KPI details. You have immediately the visualization of the average and unusual value, so you have statistic in terms of unusual value, and also average, as you can see here, quite interesting, but also the recorded data. And then it's easy with the minimap to maybe look at the day where it was worst to understand what happened and why. As you can see here, there was quite a big unusual value, as also is recorded by the system. It was really full of alerts in this region of 17th of January. But also I can then look at how many times we had alerts, so critical values, how many times warning values, how many times we are in the normal zone, okay? And it is also interesting because you could compare, for example, nearby corridors or parallel corridors, let's say this one and this one, that are two alternatives for your citizens, and then you can say, okay, the first alternative has 12% of critical errors in this same range of date, while the second alternative is indeed much more robust, you see. If I have to choose where I want to optimize my coordination strategies, for sure I would go in this second corridor. As I was saying, this also will allow different aggregation. So let's zoom again on a specific date where I see some criticalities, and then I just want to grasp the aggregated value in terms of hour, and immediately I have a value that is just by hour and shows me how hour by hour the things have gone along the corridor. Now, this is just to show you what you could do on the GUI, but let's also go straight to an example you will find in PTV GitHub. PTV has a GitHub account where you will find a lot of examples how to integrate flows or to download data from PTV flows. In this case, let me show you also the GitHub website. In this case, I will show you an example in Excel. Here you will find README and Excel file that you can download. It's free. And in this Excel file, you will find utilities and scripts that are ready for you, where you just put your API key. So in the API key, the API key has been created through the app inside PTV Flows that allows the API key to be generated so that you can download the data. Then you ask, once you have selected the API key, you get the KPI definition of your system. As you can see, I just downloaded from Flows all the list of the KPI that I have, and there is also a log here that tells you which API call we are using and if it was a success or not. Then what you can do, for example, is to ask for detailed data on 17th of January that was critical up to the next 24 hours. You see here an example, and I just get the detailed data through this call. I just click on this button to give you an idea. Here we have the script that you're able to reuse, and the code in TypeScript that explains what we are calling and how, but you don't have to touch it. It's all automatically done here with buttons. As you can see here, we have a new tab. We have all the list of the values recorded on the KPI for a specific, for the 24 hours. If I select the timestamp, you can appreciate that I have for the same timestamp a progressive value along the corridor. So it's the values recorded on the corridor along the kilometers of the corridor. And we have also an OpenLR code here that has been downloaded again by the system that allows you to say, okay, but which is the street that I'm talking about, and you can just go to the TomTom decoder here, that is a demo website for OpenLR. You copy the OpenLR code and you know which is the road that we are talking about in green. So very easy also to understand on your own Excel application what to do. And for example, I created an heat map, an historical heat map here. Clicking on this button, you see here we have a heat map of the 24 hours along the corridor that show us where the corridor is along the rows and the time is along the columns. We see where a problem is raised. For example, here we see clearly there was a problem, and so then we can zoom and trying to understand how much was the delay. In this case, it's quite a big delay, as you can see here, 13 minutes with respect to an average that is between 5 minutes or so. And then we can go and check what happened on the map, as I showed before, so which is the segment that we are referring to. Not only this, I can also, for example, get the overall KPI results, so just the value of the KPI, not the details of the links. Again, the script is run successfully. I get here the status each 5 minutes for the KPI, and if it is a warning or critical state, as you have seen in the dashboard. But also, I then can create data. For example, I want to now instead get all January, basically. So from 1st of January up to 31st, so 3 hours and 59 minutes. I ask then the overall KPI results. It will take just a bit more. It's very quick. Our technology behind is based on IoT data warehouses, so very fast in retrieving the data. And then we calculate the pivot data on 1 month of data. And for example, you would be able to know the 5th percentile, so closely to the free flow, especially if you use the hours in the night. Up to you to select the right hours. You can calculate the 95th percentile that allows you, for example, in the United States to calculate the buffer time. It's all quite straightforward and configurable, up to you to select the right day or to filter them, and then you will have the corresponding values that you are looking for. In fact, here you have the percentiles calculated for every day, and you just are using this table to do further analysis. So, in short, I show you what is possible today with the historical data analysis. Just let me add the fact that later we'll also see the replay, and we'll also add and we'll show in a new webinar other historical statistical analysis on the single links for the replay, but this is the story for another webinar. Now, before closing the webinar, I want just to check if there are questions. I will ask the audience if there are curiosities or things that must be understood more. So please feel free now to write in chat or in the question tab. While we wait for the audience to write, I also want to show the fact that there are also in the GitHub repository a Postman API ready for you to try the system. In case you have a demo, you can request a demo to our sales. Just to give you an idea, everything is available in CSV in the results, as you can see here. For example, a request for a specific street segment. You will have the map version, of course, because Flow support different map versions along the years, and we save also the map version for you, so that later you can access them if they are in the past. You have for each segment the OpenLR code or the id from node that are quite familiar for Visum users. So the tail of the link of the segment and the link ID. And we have the list of the time of the speeds along the requested date. So in this case, it's from 2nd of January to 2nd of January. for the map, you will be able to ask, of course, the network status in terms of day recorded, as you can see here, and also in terms for this type of map version, but also we have a list of tile set and functional road classes where you can filter the data by this tile set. Okay. So, I mean, this API gives you the flexibility to ask for every information and filter for every information that you need to filter with. Okay, now checking the chat, I also remind you that you can later ask on LinkedIn on the event, of the webinar event, and I will be happy to answer your question if you don't have time now to ask. And I mean, you are welcome also to ask about future things to implement that you would like to see it here. So, having said that, again, thank you for your attention. Thank you for attending this webinar, and see you to the next PTV Flows webinar.